right. Let's talk about Disney now because there's an interesting article that came out from Variety, which talks about Disney's newfound strategies moving forward. Because Disney's having a rough year this year. Um, Outside of two films, Lilo and Stitch and Freakier Friday, it has not been a great year for them. All their Marvel films have not turned a profit. We had Elio, which was also a major failure for them. So it was not a good year for them so far. Um, According to Variety, Disney plans to expand their brand's reach in demographics by targeting younger adults, specifically males between the ages of 13 and 25, if I did my research correctly, through the developments of original pieces of content, which specifically will tell stories based in adventure themed, treasure hunting, and holiday centric worlds. So, like movies that are like during Halloween or Christmas or whatever like that. And according to Variety, the reasoning behind this decision is due to a lack of interest within their established IPs, namely that of Star Wars and Marvel Studios. Um, and according to Variety, Disney's sweet spot has been with millennials, who bring their children to see newly live action adaptations of classic Disney features, evidently so with Lilo and Stitch, sitting as the highest grossing film domestically so far this year, the only $1 billion film domestically this year also. And then according to Variety also, the importance of this decision isn't as substantial as much as it's part of an ongoing strategy across the company, according to a source that from Disney that Variety spoke to. So they're looking to do some expansions, doing some reevaluations, which I think is good because, like I said, Disney this year did not have the strongest year. A lot of companies this year have been struggling. But if you read this article, the way that they talk about, basically targeting Gen Z kids, my age group, the general idea of what my generation is into is extremely vague. There isn't a consistent variable outside of basically what trends are spawned from social media. Hence why a project like a Minecraft movie reeks larger profits than others. And even the article admits to that, and this is all coming from the article too. They even address that it's hard to gauge what this generation is into because there's no consistent variables outside of just social media and shit, and in that uncertainty, I honestly can't understand the rationale behind this decision. Because if there's anything consistent about my generation, which is frankly little, they don't care for original ideas. They don't. With the exception of the horror genre, which pretty much lives or dies based on the quality of its ideas, not always by the merit of the IP. I mean, look at the horrors this year so far. I mean, there's some that are IPs and some that are not. Like Weapons this month, which has done great. It's not always to do with just notable IPs. It sometimes purely has, a lot of times, just based on the merit of the idea. With the exception of that, I think people my age, they really crave that familiarity and comfort, and they may say otherwise, but I mean, the box office shows otherwise, They're not interested in exploring uncharted territory. It's evident with larger tentpoles this year that were original-based content. Films like Elio, Elemental, Argyle, like these kinds of films. People are just not that interested in. They're not interested with these kinds of branded material. They want either familiar IPs, or they're going to gamble with genres that they already fancy already. Something like the horror genre, for example, like I said, which is more anchored by quality of ideas, not necessarily what is literally the name of the film. So because I think the answer is really twofold. If they're wanting to target these demographics, which I think is also kind of a niche market. I mean, I get it; it's a part of a larger market in this newfound age. With my generation kind of taking the bulk of maybe potentially ticket sales. Um, or at least a margin of it, a sizable part of that. I think it's a little niche to be going towards specific genders and stuff like that. Um, but I think that the way to maneuver through this would be twofold. Firstly, I think that studios need to examine social media trends more. They need to stay in line with those trends. They need to see what's the new hotness and what isn't, so that they can determine what is a worthwhile investment, right? And I don't care for these trends and all that sort of stuff, but if you are looking to cater to that demographic, you have to be able to know what the trends are. And then secondly, the thing that we've always been talking about for the longest time is that they need to reinvent their perspective of how to handle production. Costs need to come down, marketing needs to be attacked differently, and the narratives have to line up with your consumer interest. They have to. Because currently, as it stands, I don't believe they had. This is like as it stands, like as what they're trying to do. I don't think this is a sound strategy. I think it illustrates more of the distance between studios and the younger demographics. Because I don't think that original based content is the answer. I really don't think so. And as a Gen Z, I can confirm that we are very inconsistent. And I don't envy people. I don't envy anyone who can't put up with it. I can't put up with it a lot of the times either. I just know they won't bite when it comes to original content. They just won't. They need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to their familiar IPs. Work with what social media is thinking about those IPs and examining trends that are happening there. That I think, and of course bringing the cost down on production and stuff like that. That I believe will benefit you more than doing this, because I just think it's gonna be more of a waste of money when it's all said and done. So.